Welcome to the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Friday, June 19th. We are not expecting any significant impacts to fire potential over the next several days, with just gradual warming and drying across the Great Basin. There may be a few isolated thunderstorms today over northeast Utah or further north into Wyoming, but right now, very minimal lightning expected with generally light winds. Over the last 24 hours, we've seen only a few thunderstorms across northern Utah, northeast Nevada, and over into Wyoming, with very light precipitation associated with those storms. We've seen only light initial attack across the Great Basin over the last 24 hours, with just some smaller fires reported over parts of Utah, Nevada, and up into southern Idaho. Over the last 14 days, we've seen precipitation mainly target the northern half and eastern half of the Great Basin, and those areas have been above normal for the time of year, and some areas well above normal. Very dry conditions continue over southern areas of the Great Basin into western Nevada. Looking at our current ERC conditions across the Great Basin, we are still seeing ERCs above the 80th to 90th percentile over southern areas of the Great Basin and generally above the 50th percentile further north into Nevada and Utah. We will see these conditions change more significantly across or over the next week as we see much warmer and drier conditions. Looking at some of our ERC charts over eastern and western areas of the Great Basin, ERCs are above normal or near normal for the time of year. We are seeing ERCs below normal further north up across Idaho due to the wetter and cooler conditions we saw recently, but we will see ERCs rise region-wide over the next week. 10-hour fuel moisture has also dropped, but still remains very low over southern areas of the Great Basin. Looking at our satellite picture, we do have the trough of low pressure that moved through yesterday is now exiting the eastern side of the Great Basin, and we will see high pressure off the west coast start to build and strengthen as we go into the weekend and especially early next week. Later today, as that trough moves east, again, we might see some thunderstorms over far eastern sides of the Great Basin, but for the most part, warmer and drier region-wide, with generally low to moderate fire potential. Relative humidity will drop into the single digits to low teens over the southern half of the Great Basin, but winds will be fairly light region-wide. As we move into Saturday, we have another quick-moving system moving across the north, which just might bring a few clouds and maybe even a few showers or thunderstorms over parts of Idaho and Wyoming, but nothing overly widespread, so generally low to moderate fire potential. Relative humidity remains low in the south, and again, still a little bit higher up north as that next system moves through tomorrow. We also may see some breezy winds with that system across Idaho into Wyoming, with gusts generally in the 20s or possibly up around 30 miles per hour. Looking at our weather conditions for Sunday, the ridge starts to build off the west coast, so we will see warmer and drier conditions region-wide. Temperatures will likely reach into the 90s over the valleys of the southern two-thirds of the Great Basin and over 105 or 110 over areas in far southern Nevada and the Arizona Strip. Otherwise, low to moderate fire potential, but you will start to see a lot more drying occurring, especially over northern areas of the Great Basin. Relative humidity remains in the single digits to low teens over southern areas, and winds on Sunday will remain similar to Saturday, with generally light to moderate winds across most of the Great Basin and a little bit breezier further north over southern Idaho, western Wyoming, and northeast Utah. Not really expecting much precipitation. Any thunderstorms we get will be very minimal and be very light with precipitation. Going into early next week, the ridge really starts to strengthen across the west with very dry conditions across much of Nevada, Utah, and up into southwest Idaho. So we will see our fuels dry out more rapidly as we move into early next week. And also temperatures will continue to climb well up into the 90s in most of the valleys of the Great Basin. Tuesday, similar conditions, just warm and dry with, again, a lot more yellow and brown on the map for our fire potential. And then that warming continues into Wednesday. We will watch a weak area of low pressure moving in off the west coast. It may trigger some thunderstorms over parts of Idaho into northwest Nevada towards the middle of next week. So we will watch these thunderstorms and see how much moisture they bring. Right now they look to bring minimal amounts of moisture, so if we do have some drier lightning after a period of warmer and drier conditions, that could increase fire potential in some of those areas, so we'll continue to watch that. On Thursday, that system quickly moves through and again continued warm and dry conditions. Not really expecting much precipitation. Again, we may see a little bit up over central Idaho or western Wyoming as those systems skirt by to the north, but nothing significant as far as precipitation. The 8 to 14-day outlook shows continued warm conditions. This is taking us into the end of June and early July. The models are still trying to indicate some type of wetter pattern over the northern half of the Great Basin, but right now it's not looking overly wet with possibly just some thunderstorms bringing light precipitation, but we'll continue to watch that. That concludes our webcast for today. Check back tomorrow for the latest updates.